She stepped off the plane with trembling hands and a heart full of hope. Her name was Alina. She'd flown thousands of miles from a small village in Eastern Europe, chasing a dream so many before her had held close, to find love, to build a life, and to be seen for who she truly was. Her eyes scanned the crowd at the airport, looking for the man whose letters had made her believe this crazy journey could be the beginning of something real. His name was Mark. He was the one who had promised her a new life, full of warmth and affection. He said he wanted someone kind, someone loyal. Alina had believed that meant someone like her. But the moment Mark laid eyes on her, everything changed. He didn't smile. He didn't open his arms. His expression fell, and in that moment, Alina's heart cracked in two. Without even saying hello, his disappointment was written all over his face. He was expecting someone slimmer, someone who matched the filtered photos he'd saved from her online profile. He hadn't asked about her real shape. He hadn't asked about her story, her struggles, or the nights she cried herself to sleep hoping someone would love her just as she was. Alina stood awkwardly at the airport exit, gripping her suitcase, feeling eyes on her as Mark turned away, muttering something under his breath. When he finally spoke, his words landed like a slap. "This isn't going to work." That's all he said before walking away. She was left alone in a foreign country, in a city she didn't know, with no one to call and nowhere to go. Her heart sank. Everything she had hoped for had vanished in a single sentence. She wasn't just rejected, she was humiliated. But what Mark didn't know, what no one there could have seen, was Alina's strength. She didn't break down in that moment, even though every part of her wanted to. She picked up her suitcase, wiped her tears, and walked out of that airport into the unknown. She had come for love, and even if this chapter ended in heartbreak, her story wasn't over yet. Somewhere in the same city, a man named Thomas lived a quiet life. He wasn't rich, he wasn't flashy, but he had a heart that noticed things others overlooked. He'd been hurt too, left by someone who said he wasn't ambitious enough, not exciting enough. He knew what it felt like to be unwanted, but he still believed in love, the kind that wasn't about perfection or appearances, the kind that was patient and real. Fate has a funny way of bringing people together, sometimes when they're at their lowest. Days passed and Alina, now staying at a small, shared apartment she found online, tried to figure out what to do next. She thought about going home, but something deep inside told her not to give up just yet. She started walking through the city, visiting parks, bookstores, and cafes, trying to feel less like a stranger. That's where it happened. A rainy Tuesday afternoon, a forgotten umbrella, and a small bookstore tucked between a bakery and a flower shop. Alina had ducked inside to escape the downpour. Her hair was damp, her coat dripping, but the quiet inside the shop felt like a hug. And there he was, Thomas, sitting behind the counter, reading a worn-out paperback, sipping tea. He looked up when he heard the doorbell. She apologized for the mess. He smiled and offered her a cup of tea. She laughed nervously and said yes. That simple moment changed everything. They didn't talk about romance that day. They talked about books and home and rainy days. She told him about her village, about her mother's cooking, and how she loved writing poetry. He told her about growing up in the city, about the old dog he used to have, and the way he always wanted to learn to bake but kept burning the bread. There was something easy between them, something kind. Thomas didn't look at Alina and see a body that didn't meet some invisible standard. He saw her eyes light up when she talked about her dreams. He saw how gently she held a book, how thoughtfully she spoke, and he noticed something else too, the sadness behind her smile. He didn't ask right away, but he knew she had been through something. Weeks passed, and their paths kept crossing. Not by accident. They started meeting intentionally, for coffee, then for lunch, then for long walks where silence felt just as good as talking. Alina started to smile more. She laughed louder. She felt lighter. She hadn't expected any of this. She didn't come to this country to fall for someone else, not after what happened. But sometimes, love finds you when you least expect it. Just when Alina began to trust this feeling, when she started to believe that maybe someone could truly see her, Mark came back, out of nowhere. And this time, he had something to say that would shake everything up again. But what will Alina do? Will she fall for empty apologies, or follow the quiet, steady love growing right in front of her? Alina stood frozen on the sidewalk, umbrella clutched in one hand, phone in the other. Mark's message was still glowing on the screen, as if mocking her. Asterisk, I made a mistake. Can we talk? Asterisk, it had been over a month since he turned his back on her at the airport, since he looked her up and down and decided she wasn't good enough. And now suddenly he wanted to talk. She didn't reply right away. She couldn't. Her heart, which had slowly begun to heal, started racing again, not out of love, but confusion. Why now? What did he want? Thomas noticed the shift. That afternoon, when she came into the bookstore, her smile was different. A little guarded. He poured her usual tea, but her hands trembled slightly when she took it. She was quiet. He didn't press her. He never did, but she could tell he noticed. Later that night, Alina sat in her tiny room, staring at her phone. She wasn't foolish, at least not anymore, but curiosity, that old familiar ache, pulled at her. Maybe she needed closure. Maybe she needed to hear him say it to her face, that she hadn't imagined what happened, that it wasn't her fault, that her worth wasn't tied to a dress size or a stranger's expectations. So she agreed to meet. They sat at a busy cafe downtown, the clinking of cups and hum of conversation filling the awkward silence between them. Mark looked different, not physically, but his eyes held something else this time, regret maybe, or something close to it. I panicked, he said, not even waiting for her to speak first. I saw you and I reacted badly. I was shallow. I'm sorry. Alina looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't cruel now, but that didn't erase the way he made her feel that day. Still, he kept going. I've thought about you every day since. I realized what I lost. I see you now, not just your photo, not the profile. Asterisk you, asterisk, and I want another chance. The words hung in the air. Back at the bookstore, Thomas waited. He didn't know where she was, but something in his chest told him this wasn't just another rainy evening. He tried to focus on shelving books, but he kept glancing toward the door, hoping, worrying. The next day, Alina walked into the shop. She looked tired. She didn't say much, just that she needed time to think. And Thomas, kind as ever, simply nodded. But then came the twist no one saw coming. A local blog had picked up a short story Alina had written under a pen name, something she'd written weeks ago, a piece about heartbreak, healing, and starting over. It was raw, honest, and deeply personal. She hadn't told anyone she submitted it, but now it was making its rounds online. People were sharing it, commenting on it, and somehow it landed in Mark's inbox. He knew it was her. The story revealed everything. Her pain, his rejection, the gentle man with the warm tea and the quiet strength. And suddenly, the story wasn't just between them anymore. Mark showed up at the bookstore that evening, unexpected and uninvited. Thomas saw him first. He was helping a customer when he noticed the same man from the photo Alina once showed him, the one who left her at the airport. I need to talk to her, Mark said. Thomas stepped in, calm but firm. She's not here. But she was. She had come in through the back entrance, bringing pastries from the cafe like she always did on Fridays. And she heard the voices before she saw the faces. Her heart sank. Now the moment was real. Both men standing under the same roof. One from her past, trying to rewrite the ending. One from her present, who never asked her to change a thing. And just when you think that's enough, just when you think the choice is clear, something else happens. Something neither of them saw coming. Because it turns out, Alina wasn't the only one with a past. And Thomas had been keeping a secret of his own. What kind of secret? And how will it change everything Alina thought she knew? Stay with me, because this story is about to take another turn. Alina stood just behind the bookshelf, out of sight, her heart pounding as the sound of Mark's voice cut through the quiet store. She hadn't expected this, not today. She had thought about what she'd say if they ever crossed paths again, strong, confident words that would show she moved on. But now that it was happening, everything felt messy and real. She stepped forward slowly. Mark turned the moment he saw her. "Alina," he said, his voice soft, maybe even a little shaken. "I read your story. I know it was about me, and I get it now. I was wrong. So wrong." Thomas looked from Mark to Alina, then back again. He said nothing, but the tension in his posture spoke volumes. Alina glanced at him briefly. He had been her safe place for weeks now. Her friend, her maybe something more. But she hadn't known there was more to his asterisk story too. The secret he hadn't shared. "I need to say something," Thomas finally said, his voice gentle, "before any decisions are made." Alina turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "I wasn't always this calm guy in a bookstore," he said, smiling faintly. "I used to work in tech. Fast-paced, stressful, never had time for anything real. I was engaged once. A long time ago. She left me for someone with more status, I guess. It broke me. After that, I left it all. I wanted peace. I wanted to rebuild. And that's when I opened this place." Alina listened quietly. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to bring that baggage in, but maybe I should have, because you've been honest with me from the start, and I owe you the same." She nodded slowly, absorbing the truth. It didn't change the way she saw him, not really. If anything, it made her respect him more. He wasn't perfect. He'd been broken too. That's why he understood her without her having to explain. Mark stepped closer, clearly impatient. "Look, Alina, I know I messed up, but I came here to make it right. I want to start over. I want to give this a real chance. Don't throw it away because of one mistake." Alina took a deep breath. It would have been easy to fall into the trap of old emotions, to believe that an apology was enough. But she'd grown. She wasn't the same woman who arrived at that airport hoping someone would choose her. She'd learned to choose herself. "You didn't make one mistake, Mark," she said quietly. "You judged me without knowing me. You walked away when I needed someone the most. You didn't just reject my body. You rejected who I was." Mark looked down, shame flickering across his face. "I don't hate you," she continued, "but I've changed. I'm not looking for someone to rescue me. I'm not desperate for love anymore. I want something real, something kind, something honest." She turned toward Thomas. "And you've been all of that. You never made me feel like I had to be someone else. Even now, after telling me your past, you're still standing here, and that means more than you know." There was a pause, a quiet, powerful silence where all three stood, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Then Alina smiled, not at Mark, but at herself. "I don't need to choose between two men," she said, "because this isn't a love triangle. This is my life, and I get to decide how it looks." She walked toward the front door of the bookstore, looking back once, not with regret, but with peace. "Thank you for the apology, Mark, and thank you for the truth, Thomas. But right now, I need a little time just for me." And she meant it. She wasn't walking away in sadness or confusion. She was walking away with clarity. It didn't mean she was giving up on love. It just meant she was giving herself the space to grow even more. In the days that followed, Alina continued visiting the bookstore, sometimes to see Thomas, sometimes just to sit with a book and a cup of tea. There were no big declarations, no dramatic kisses in the rain, just quiet moments, shared smiles, trust rebuilt one step at a time. Mark didn't show up again. Maybe he realized it was truly over. Maybe he respected her enough now to let her go. Months passed. Alina started writing more. Her short story had inspired hundreds of women online, many who reached out to say they felt seen, understood. She turned that one piece into a blog, then a small collection of stories. Real ones about love, rejection, healing, and self-worth. And through it all, Thomas was there, not to save her, but to walk beside her. One late afternoon, as the golden light filtered through the bookstore windows, Thomas placed a hand over hers while they read quietly at the same table. She looked up and they smiled. No rush, no pressure, just warmth, connection, the kind of love that takes its time. Alina had once flown across the world hoping someone would see her. But in the end, the journey wasn't really about being chosen. It was about choosing herself. And that made all the difference.